If you're someone who struggles with motivation, you're either all in or all out, but you want to stay motivated for longer, you need to know what season you're in. My name is Harrison Orr. I'm your host of the Be Better podcast. I'm here to help you get better faster. I've coached almost 5,000 men to help them stress less, have more energy, be better dads, leaders, and just overall high performers. And I want to share the lessons that I've learned personally and from coaching all those guys over the years. When you know what season you're in, it can make a huge difference as to the actions that you take and also how you can maintain what you're doing instead of being all in one week and then all out the other week, and then you lose motivation as a consequence of that because you're going up and down. Like one day you're feeling on top of the world, next day you feel like shit, and then you don't take action on anything, and then it makes you feel even worse and you risk going down in your motivation, you're not so disciplined, and then everything falls off. Coming up for the Yard Gym, the gym that I coach at, we have a Take Care Challenge, and I love this challenge. I love this concept because it, despite being a challenge, almost goes against the grain of a typical challenge. Most challenges are obviously your fat loss, your muscle gain, so they put you in some crazy deficit. The goal is to get as many steps as you can, do as many sessions as you can in this 6 or 8 week block, and then they'll track your fat loss and your muscle gain, and then crown the winner. And whilst those things can have a place, they can be a good little motivator to help keep people on track. Problem with those is, for a lot of people, it causes this highs and lows. Like, people can be so stringent and disciplined for that time, but they take an unrealistic, or sorry, I should say an unsustainable approach. Like, they get to that end date, that final weigh-in, and then they go out, binge eat, binge drink. They just, throw it all away, and then, take a week off training or whatever it is, and, they go back to basically where they were at the start of the challenge. And then a couple months later, start a new challenge, and then the cycle repeats itself. Which, when you take a step back and realize that's what you've been doing over the last few years, that you actually haven't made any progress or minimal progress because of those down periods, it can be really demotivating. It can be really upsetting, and then a lot of people can even get down on that, think, what am I doing? What's the point if I'm not even making progress? And so the point in this Take Care Challenge is to help people find a sustainable way to maintain their habits, maintain their healthy eating, their training programs, their overall health habits that enable them to keep making progress. And so one thing that I've realized, especially becoming a dad, especially running a business, there's different times, different stages in the parenthood journey, in the business journey, in my own life that have been beneficial or optimal even for certain activities. So, before you have a kid, it's great to go start a business. It's great to, get to the body of your dreams. It's great to do all those things because you're not no one is reliant on you. Nobody is, dependent on you to feed them, to bath them, to drive them places, to look after them, to be there just so they have someone looking over them so they don't kill themselves or die of starvation or attention, right? And so you have a lot more time to yourself, and you can dedicate a lot more time and energy to training harder, dieting harder, putting more time into the business. You can do all that because you don't have the responsibilities and the stress of being a parent and all those things that come with it. And then so in that first few months, even that first few years, for some people, when you become a parent, then that shifts. Maybe getting the body of your dreams in that time period isn't the highest priority, right? Trying to diet your hardest on top of already getting disturbed sleep, already, having a lot to figure out, a lot to learn, because there's a whole lot of things that we don't know going into parenthood for the first time that we have to figure out on the fly. Like, it's a stressful time. And so as part of that stress, as part of that learning, then trying to dedicate even more stress and more energy and more capacity to training your hardest, to dieting, to doing all those things can be a really hard ask. And so in this challenge, and like when I refer to seasons, that's what I'm kind of referring to, like these seasons in our life and in, not just the year, but when we're optimal to go hard on certain things, and in the off season, so to speak, where, it's not the best time to go hard on some of those things, how you can then dial that back, but still keep up some of those habits so that you're still making progress, so that you don't completely fall off the bandwagon. And so women, I think, have a, how do I want to phrase this? Obviously, women have a different cycle to men. Men, we can compare ourselves almost day to day, really. But women, having their cycle be 28 days, not 24 hours, then have a different time span of comparison. And so if you're a woman listening to this and, health is in your top level of priorities right now, and maybe you're trying to lose fat and maybe you're trying to gain some strength and you're kind of tracking those numbers, one thing that I would really implore you, because I know it can be really hard to be demotivated, you weigh yourself 1 week and you've lost 2 kilos and the next week you've gained another kilo and you're like, I've changed nothing, what's going on? Your cycle will affect all this. And so I'm not going to pretend to be an expert in that space, but one thing that I will suggest is compare apples with apples. So if you're tracking your strength, if you're tracking your weight, compare it to the same stage in your cycle, which you're going to say, I have to wait 4 weeks to compare where I was? Yeah, unfortunately. So, if you can track it across the month, across those 4 weeks, both your weight and your strength gains, if those are metrics that you're tracking, awesome. And then don't compare them to each other. Use those as base records for the next month then. So compare week 1 to week 1, week 2 to week 2, and so on and so forth, to be able to get a more holistic viewpoint of where you're at. Because of all those hormonal changes, there's a lot more going on, that some weeks you're going to feel stronger, other weeks you'll feel weaker, some weeks you'll feel more creative, other weeks you'll feel more social, some weeks you won't be hungry, others you'll be able to stick to your diet a lot more, others you'll have more cravings. It's part of the journey. And so as guys, we don't have that big span of our cycle. We only have that 24 hours, but the concept of those seasons still applies. And so in the down period, because I know that's where I want to focus on, because when you're feeling good, it's super easy to be disciplined. It's super easy to hit your 5 sessions a week, to stay to your nutrition plan, to do all those kind of things. It's when shit hits the fan that we fall off. And it's where a lot of people kind of get lost. And so focusing on that period for a second, in that off season, that lower season, our goal in this period should not be to hit PBs. You're not trying to hit the most amount of steps. You're not trying to create the biggest deficit in your diet. You're not trying to set any world records in this period. In this period, and I should outline what that looks like first of all. In this period, it looks like when you're not getting the best sleep. Maybe your child is waking up a lot. Maybe you're just struggling to get to sleep because you've got a lot of stress on. Maybe you've got a lot of stress coming from work because you've got deadlines due. Maybe you've just started a new job. You've got a lot to learn. You've got a lot going on. Or maybe there's a bit of conflict at work that's causing you stress that you're struggling to let go of. Maybe you've got also some of that stress with your partner. You guys aren't seeing eye to eye right now. Or maybe there's a bit of stress because of that child, because you're feeling more like roommates because you haven't been able to have that quality connection and that quality time together in a while. So that's causing a bit of friction or frustration. Maybe because work isn't working out right now, or there's a lot of bills coming up, or something has happened that finances are a stress. So that's causing you to be distracted when you're at home. So you're not fully present with the kids or with each other and things like that. Maybe that disturbs your sleep. And so the more stress that we carry, the harder it makes it to get optimal quality sleep, and the harder it makes it for us to actually perform, because we can only handle so much stress. And so there's certain stresses that are more difficult to control, be it financial stress, emotional stress, psychological stress, like mental stress, like from work or relationships and things like that. And then there's easier forms of stress, like digestive stress, just don't eat like a pig. Sleep deprivation, doing your best to still get enough sleep, putting in place a sleep routine so that you can get good quality, consistent sleep. And then a diet, like a huge deficit, creates a stress on the body, and training as well creates a stress on the body. And so you notice from some of those things, you might think, well, Harry, I thought losing fat was a good thing. I thought training hard was a good thing, was a good stress. Yeah, you're totally right. But at the end of the day, it's still a stress. If you are sleep deprived, if you are mentally stressed, if you are like fried from all those things going on in your life, and then you go and try and like hit a PB in some of your lifts, there is a much higher likelihood that you injure yourself because you're already stressed out than in those times where you're so much more carefree, you're getting good quality sleep, you don't have those stresses. And so when we can identify that, hey, I've got all these stresses on, probably going into a heavy deficit, probably trying to max out and go ham on my training right now isn't the best. Awesome. That's identification is step number one. Number two is cool. What can I do about it? And this is where a lot of people, even if they can't identify it, they just drop off. Oh, I don't have the energy to train. I'm too tired. I'm too stressed on this. And so they stop doing everything. The goal here is not to stop doing everything. It's to find the base level of habits that even in the times that you're tired, even in the times that you're stressed, even in the times that maybe you don't feel like you have enough time, that you can still essentially tick that box. And so what that can look like for some people is, instead of going hard on your training, still turn up to the session, but go at half pace. So you've ticked that box. I know that can be hard for a lot of people, myself included. Like, that ego likes to get in the way, especially in a group class when you see everybody else lifting heavy, going hard, and you want to, but you probably shouldn't. So dial it back. But if you can't control yourself there, you can either lean on the coach, lean on the person running that class and just say, hey, I'm quite stressed at the moment. I'm not getting the best sleep. Can you make sure that I don't push myself too hard? Like, I'm just here to tick the box, right? So one of the classes I run is a 9:30 class, which is predominantly mums, as that time is for most gyms. And a lot of them are there to tick the box at this stage. They like the social aspect. They're not there to go crazy. They're there to move their body, to have some fun, and to just enjoy the workout. And so for them, me being a hard ass and trying to train them with the same, almost same level of discipline and strictness that I would say like a 5 or a 6 a.m. class, it's just not going to fly. It's not going to be fun for anybody. So if you can own that, and if you still can't control that, find another outlet for that movement. Because I guarantee you, nobody ever regretted a workout. They never regretted their movement, wishing, damn, I wish I didn't do that. I feel so much worse. Like, especially coming into spring and into summer, go spend some time outside. You may not be able to get that full hour workout in, but go for a 30-minute walk out in the sun. Go see the sunrise, do things like that. That is going to massively help your stress levels, help your body. You keep moving. That morning sun is going to be amazing for your sleep, for your hormones, for your energy, for your mood, for everything. Even take your partner, maybe take your kids if they're not the source of your stress, or even just walk in silence. Have some time to think, have some time to kind of play with those thoughts. Kind of what's stressing you out. Ask yourself, is it really worth the stress? Is there something that I can do about it? Maybe what would I do about it? What am I going to do to kind of solve this stress, to get on top of it? When we don't have the stimulation of social media, of screens, of videos, of podcasts, of like information always coming in, you'll be amazed at how good our brain is at solving problems if it's given that opportunity. And so in this season, when we're tired, we're stressed, we feel like we don't have enough time, it's finding those habits that can still tick that box. So for that training, if you can't get to the gym, or you get to the gym and you struggle to to dial it down a little bit, find what works for you in that space, but find something that ticks that movement pattern box. Then when it comes to nutrition, for a lot of people go all or nothing in this. Either find the time on the weekend to do that meal prep, because all you need to set yourself up for that full week is a couple of hours of that motivation or that discipline, and then you don't have to think about it for the rest of the week. Like, I know personally, if even by freaking Wednesday, if I haven't prepped our family's meals for the week, I'll say to my wife, hey, do you want to get Moons for dinner? And Moons is a local sushi place that we absolutely love. It's our favorite. We would go there every night if we could, But for various reasons, we probably shouldn't. But if I haven't prepped some food that we are actively looking forward to, then that will become the option, which goes against multiple things that we're trying to work towards at the moment. And so if you can find that routine that works for you in prepping that food, in cooking ordering, buying, prepping the food, having it organized for the week, That way, when it comes to the week, when you then have the load of the week to compete with as well, because there's going to be so many variables that come up in the week that you didn't foresee on Sunday. Now, having to worry about what you're going to eat is just one less thing that you need to put mental capacity into, because there's food in the fridge. All you need to do is put it in a bowl, put it in the microwave, heat it up, and you're good. For lunches, for dinners, breakfast is nice and easy. It's a shake, or prep that as a frittata, as something else, whatever you want to have, your pulled meat steak even, and you're good to go. One less thing to think about, one less thing that you need to be disciplined of and have dedicate willpower to, because it's already organized. If that fails you, and sometimes that does, have backup options. Like for us, that backup option is often barbecue chicken, or those roast meals from Coles or Woolies, or even the local, roast chicken shop. Buying one of those, shredding that up, and then either mixing that with a salad, or with some rice, or just with some pasta. Like easy options that take all of 20 minutes, not even, to whip up, right? That way that we've got a backup that doesn't break the budget, that is still healthy, and still hits the macro targets, or what we're aiming for there. If that is still, you're too much, I don't even have that kind of time or capacity, or I'm not that creative, whatever it is, there's so many different meal prep companies out there. There's Muscle Chef, there's Macro Chef, there's so many others. You don't even have to order them. You can just walk into Woolies or Coles and they just have them pre-made already there that you can just grab. So there are no excuses for not sticking to some of these practices in some capacity. And so what I'd suggest is find that hierarchy that works for you. Okay, we know that the top tier, when we've got the most willpower, discipline, time, energy, motivation, all that stuff, this is the standard of we do our 5 sessions a week, and we still get 8 hours of sleep because we have these routines, and this is what the nutrition looks like, and this is what our wellness practices look like, and mental health practices, and all that kind of stuff. But then life happens. So then what's the tier below that? Okay, well, I'm still getting 5 sessions, but they're just at a lower intensity. Well, I'm still eating healthy, but instead of having, everything prepped, it's kind of half prepped, half prepaid. Or, below that is bought in meals. Okay, I don't have time to go to the gym, but I'm still just going for a walk or going for a run, spending time in the sun. I'm doing something else that kind of ticks that activity box, because we know how helpful activity is, not just for our physical health, but for our mental health as well. And that's where a lot of people start to slide, is when they lose some of these habits. Not only does their motivation go down, but their mental health goes down as well, because that anxiety kind of creeps back in. That confidence starts to go down as well. So they now have the confidence and the anxiety of coming back as well. And then when they come back to the gym or back to training, they're not where they were. Maybe they've lost a bit of strength or conditioning. They're not looking the same as they were. And that can be even more demotivating for a lot of people. So the more that we can remove some of these, the easier it can make it to stay on track. And so in this season, the way I want you to kind of think about this is, we're not about trying to hit PBs. We're not about trying to raise the ceiling. We're focusing on raising the floor of this season, right? The more that we can raise our base level standards, then the easier it becomes to maintain this progress year after year, indefinitely, for as long as we live. So as much as it's great to have those highs, it's not hard to kind of have those, but when we're not in that space, how do we raise our standards? Because everyone has a base standard, and we will default to the habits that have been the most ingrained. So the habits that we have stuck to the longest are the habits that we will default to when times get stressful. Because when we get stressed, it takes up a lot of mental capacity. So we want to think and make as little decisions as possible. So we will default to the easiest road possible. And whatever you've been doing for the longest amount of time, when it comes to habits and routines and default responses, is where we will go. So the longer that you can maintain some of these habits, the higher chance they have of becoming that default. So even when things aren't the greatest, you're still only dropping down a little bit compared to going all the way down into this crevice. Because everyone has that point of change, right? Some people will get to 150 kilos overweight and think, oh shit, or maybe I should think about starting a diet on Monday. Oh, you know what? Actually, Monday's a public holiday. It's not a good time for me. But actually, I've got a party next week, so maybe I'll wait till after that. Oh, you know what? We're going into the Christmas period. Maybe I should wait till after that to start a diet because I don't really want to restrict myself. And, it's bad to restrict myself, because I need to live and, whatever other bullshit people spin themselves and procrastinate forever. But you've got other people that sit at 10% body fat percentage all year round. And as soon as they get to 12%, they get that little bit softer and like, that's gross. I hate this. I don't like this. I need to dial things back up. Okay, let's cut the snacks. Let's cut some of those cheeky drinks or those extra coffees or things or those extra calories, back onto my training, like get more rigid on this. And then so we go back to that. So the higher we can raise that standard before we take action in terms to getting back on track and to keeping those habits, the more longevity we have in our progress, in staying stable in terms of our mental health and our progress and growing in all seasons as well. So some seasons where we're pushing the ceiling, we're maxing out in the gym with our efforts to grow that business, in terms of growing our relationship, in terms of our own personal development. Others, we're just hanging on, right? Most people, when they first have their first child, aren't going to start going on some mission to make their relationship the best it's ever been, bring back the spark and do all this kind of stuff, because you're just hanging in there when you're sleep deprived and you're figuring how to be a parent and all this stuff out, right? So when you know what season you're in, it can make it a lot easier to cut yourself some slack. Don't try to max out when you're in that off season. And then so it's in that off season that, okay, cool. How do I raise this bar? And so when we look back, we do that bit of reflection. How have I handled it this time compared to last time? Oh, well, last time I got this stressed, I didn't go to the gym for 3 months. I binge ate. I ate McDonald's and KFC 5 times a week. I barely hit 5,000 steps a day. My sleep was trash. I was watching social media and porn all night, and was drinking every single weekend. And that lasted about 6 months before I did something about it. This time, okay, well, I still maintained going to the gym. I didn't binge eat on takeaway, and I only went out every second weekend or whatever. Awesome, right? If they're comparing it to where we were, so that we know that we're kind of growing. And so just like I said at the start, females comparing it to that same week in the cycle, compare it to how you've handled it last year. So we're not comparing our on season to our off season. We're comparing off season to off season, on season to on season, as we grow as well. So then each time we get those learnings, okay, well, I didn't do this as well as I could have. Let's change this a little bit home. I didn't handle that stress as well as I would have liked. I still wasn't able to switch off after work. It still ruined my sleep, and I felt like it had more control over me. And that then, that poor sleep affected my ability to stay disciplined, to go to the gym, to make these better decisions. Awesome. Let's focus on making sure that our sleep doesn't get disrupted as much as it did when that stress hit. Awesome. Okay. And then you've got those learning curves. So then as you start to build, you nail those foundations, and then even in your off season, you've got a much higher benchmark than what you did. Instead of these huge highs and massive lows, it's like so much more stable. You get those highs, and then you come back to baseline. You're not dropping all the way down. And so I hope that's been helpful for you. That's been something that's been massively helpful for me in my journey, is raising the floor, raising the standards of what I do. Even in the times where I don't feel like it, I'm not able to max out. I'm not as big as I was. I'm not as fit as I was. I'm not, I don't have the capacity to put into business as I would like to or as I used to. But recognizing, okay, I'm just going to stress myself out by comparing myself to what I was doing. What am I actually capable of doing right now, given the current circumstances? And then also obviously trying to change those if it's applicable. I'm not going to get rid of my son because he takes up more of my time and stops me from growing the business, right? So just cutting yourself some slack, because that huge pressure is what can weigh a lot of people down. And so I really hope that's helpful. If you're close to a yard, and this sounds like something that you'd love to try, I highly recommend getting amongst this Take Care Challenge. It's free for all members. If you're not a member, we haven't actually an open week this week at the moment anyway, and this week is the first week of October. But other than that, if you're not a part of that, that's totally cool. But I hope this has been helpful. I hope this has provided a mindset that you can use to identify what season you're in and then tweak some of those habits so you ultimately raise that standard. And then so as you get better and better and better and you maintain that level, you lift that standard, you lift that standard, you lift that standard continually, because the more you can keep that floor elevated, then the higher that ceiling becomes. So I hope that's helpful. Like always, don't be sorry, be better. If this was helpful in any way, shape, or form, please share it with a friend or share it on social media. I would absolutely love to be able to help more people and share this kind of stuff, because it's been so helpful for me and all the clients that I've worked with. And the more people that we can help raise to their highest potential, then the better off society and we'll all be as a byproduct. So again, hope that's helpful. Have an epic day. See you soon.